Asterisk in the sleek, silvery corridors of the Alaran starship, Commander Ethan Monroe, a seasoned astronaut representing Earth, felt both excitement and anxiety. This was a historic moment for humankind, the first diplomatic mission with an extraterrestrial species, the Alarans, who had reached out to Earth only months prior. The mission's goal was to foster understanding, knowledge exchange, and hopefully, mutual respect between two vastly different species. Asterisk. As Ethan adjusted the collar of his uniform, the door slid open, revealing his Alaran guide, Miri. Like all Alarans, Miri's skin had an almost ethereal glow, her bioluminescent patterns shifting with her emotions. Her eyes, deep and curious, fixed on Ethan as she smiled. A gesture he had learned was a sign of polite interest. "Welcome to our ship, Commander Ethan," Miri said, her voice a soft hum, accented in a way that made each word sound melodious. "Thank you, Miri," he replied, offering a smile back. "It's an honor to be here." Their initial exchange was formal, but as Miri led him through the ship, her curiosity was apparent. She glanced at his hands, his face, even the way he walked, as though fascinated by the subtle differences between them. To her, humans were just as alien as the Alarans were to him. When they arrived at a small room designated for him, she hesitated at the door. "Commander, may I ask a question?" she ventured. Ethan chuckled. "Sure, go ahead. This is all new for us too." Her skin shimmered with a light pink hue, a sign of curiosity he remembered from the briefing. "I've been studying your physiology, but some aspects of your anatomy are puzzling." Ethan's brows rose in surprise. "Puzzling," he repeated, wondering what she could mean. She gestured with her slender hand. "The external appendages, especially. Our own bodies are more streamlined. Without such," she paused, searching for the word, "protrusions. Could you explain?" For a moment, Ethan felt his face flush. He realized she was referring to aspects of human anatomy that were hardly topics of casual conversation. But he could see her genuine curiosity, her intent purely scientific. Ethan took a steadying breath, thinking of how to answer diplomatically. "Well, humans and Alarans are structured differently. Our physiology has evolved based on different needs and environments. It's complicated." He hoped that would suffice. But Miri's curiosity only deepened. "I understand. And these differences, do they affect your day-to-day life?" The conversation was getting tricky, and Ethan knew he'd have to navigate it carefully. Just then, a small crowd of Alaran crew members gathered in the hallway, their bioluminescent skin glimmering as they observed the exchange with obvious intrigue. The Alaran crew members gathered around the doorway, their glowing patterns shifting in hues of green and blue, colors that Ethan recalled were signs of curiosity and amusement. He felt a mix of discomfort and humor at the situation. His differences were now the topic of interspecies fascination. "Maybe we can find a more private setting to continue this discussion," he suggested, glancing nervously at the growing crowd. Miri nodded, realizing the unintentional spectacle she had created. They moved into a more secluded area, a sleek room lined with floating screens displaying information in the Alaran language. Miri led him to a seat across from her, and the room's lights dimmed, adding a layer of solemnity to the setting. "Commander Ethan," she began formally, "on behalf of our species, I must apologize. Our culture values knowledge, and sometimes curiosity gets the best of us. I did not mean to make you uncomfortable." Ethan gave a reassuring smile, trying to ease her embarrassment. "It's all right, Miri. I'm here to learn about your culture too. Curiosity is something we humans value as well." Miri's skin pulsed with a soft purple, a color he recognized as gratitude. "Thank you, Commander. I appreciate your understanding. Perhaps we could arrange a formal discussion where you could teach us more about human physiology." The suggestion caught Ethan off guard. A formal discussion about human anatomy. He knew it would be a delicate topic for many of his fellow humans, but he also recognized the potential for bridging cultural gaps. "I think that could be arranged," he replied carefully. "But maybe we could focus on general aspects of our physiology, things that wouldn't be too, personal." Miri tilted her head thoughtfully. "Of course, I understand. Our people have a long history of studying the differences between species. It's a cornerstone of our civilization's values. To understand another being's biology is to understand their perspective and their strengths." Her words resonated with Ethan. As strange as this encounter was, he could see that Miri's intent was sincere. This mission was, after all, about fostering understanding, and he was willing to make some sacrifices for that purpose. Just then, the door opened and an imposing figure entered, Captain Vorin, the Alaran ship's commanding officer. His skin radiated a strong blue hue, his eyes narrowed in a way that communicated both authority and wariness. Ethan felt the weight of the captain's gaze on him, scrutinizing his every move. "Scientist Miri," Vorin began in a deep, resonant voice, "I trust that our guest has been treated with the utmost respect." Miri's skin glowed briefly with pink, a signal of nervousness. "Yes, Captain. Commander Ethan and I were discussing the potential for a mutual understanding of our species' biological differences." Captain Vorin's expression didn't soften. "These discussions are unconventional, Miri. Some in our ranks may not support this level of openness with a foreign species." Ethan sensed the tension but stood firm. "Captain Vorin, I understand your concerns. This is new territory for both our species. But if we're to build an alliance, it's crucial that we find ways to bridge these differences, however unconventional they may be." Vorin's gaze remained steady, though Ethan noticed a faint flicker of interest. "You speak boldly, Commander," he said. "Perhaps there is value in exploring these ideas, but I will be monitoring these discussions closely." Ethan nodded, understanding the unspoken caution in Vorin's words. This alliance was fragile, and any misstep could derail the mission. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on him, but he felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was bigger than his personal discomfort. It was about creating a foundation of trust between two civilizations. As Captain Vorin left the room, Miri turned to him, her skin glowing with a subtle orange hue, a sign of excitement. "Commander, I believe this could be a monumental step for both our species." Ethan allowed himself a small smile. "Let's take it one step at a time, Miri. I think we're both learning as we go." The days following their initial encounter were filled with a whirlwind of preparations. A formal meeting was scheduled, where Ethan would be given the chance to discuss humanity's physiology and answer questions from a select group of Alaran scientists. Despite his growing comfort around Miri, he felt a sense of nervous anticipation about how the Alaran delegation would react. As he entered the large conference room aboard the Alaran ship, Ethan noticed that the atmosphere was different. Rows of Alaran scientists, each emitting a faint bioluminescent glow, sat in attentive silence. At the center of the group stood Miri, her expression a mixture of eagerness and professionalism, ready to facilitate the dialogue. Ethan took a deep breath and began his introduction, choosing his words carefully. "Thank you all for inviting me. I know that humans are as alien to you as you are to us, but I believe that understanding each other on a biological level can help us forge a lasting connection." Miri gestured for him to continue, her gaze encouraging. He launched into a broad overview of human anatomy, focusing on aspects that wouldn't be overly personal. He discussed human sensory perception, muscle structure, and adaptability to different environments, watching as the Alaran scientists' skin colors shifted with each new topic, showing interest and even amazement. But it wasn't long before a question came that caught him off guard. A young Alaran scientist, her skin flickering in shades of blue and green, raised her hand. "Commander Ethan, you mentioned how your bodies are suited to a wide range of environments. What adaptations allow humans to survive in extreme climates?" Ethan nodded, relieved to have a question in his comfort zone. "Humans have developed unique physical adaptations over time. For instance, we have sweat glands that help regulate body temperature. In hot environments, our bodies can cool down by releasing moisture. In colder climates, we rely on clothing and the ability to produce heat through shivering to stay warm. The scientist's eyes widened in amazement, her bioluminescence flaring brighter. You mean, your bodies can create warmth independently? Ethan chuckled. Yes, in a way. Our muscles contract rapidly to generate heat in response to cold. It's not as efficient as the climate control technology on your ships, but it works well enough for us. The room was abuzz with whispers, their glowing colors painting the space in swirling hues. Just as Ethan started to feel more relaxed, another question arose, a bold one that would challenge the boundaries he had set. A senior scientist, his skin glowing with a steady blue light, asked, "And what of reproduction? I understand our biology is quite different, yet I am curious about how your species sustains itself." Ethan paused, feeling a familiar unease. He looked at Miri, who offered an understanding smile, and gave him a subtle nod of reassurance. He cleared his throat, trying to maintain a neutral tone. "Human reproduction is indeed different from Alaran methods," he began cautiously. "Our bodies rely on a combination of internal and external factors to reproduce. I'd be happy to provide a broad overview, focusing on scientific aspects, without delving too deeply into personal matters." The senior scientist's bioluminescent glow flickered with satisfaction. "Understood, Commander. We respect your boundaries. Your willingness to share these details is already more than we expected." Feeling the tension ease, Ethan proceeded to explain the basics, providing a scientific perspective on the mechanics of human reproduction, without touching on intimate details. The Alaran scientists listened intently, absorbing the information with genuine interest. After a lengthy discussion, the session was brought to a close. Ethan felt a mix of relief and accomplishment. He had managed to maintain his composure and provide the knowledge they sought while respecting human boundaries. As the scientists filed out, Miri stayed behind, her skin flickering with a subtle pink hue. She approached him, gratitude in her gaze. "Commander, your openness and patience were remarkable today. I believe our people will remember this as a turning point." Ethan gave her a modest smile. "Thank you, Miri. I just hope I didn't overstep any cultural lines. This alliance matters deeply to us." Miri nodded, her expression warm. "You did wonderfully, Ethan. Your willingness to share, even under uncomfortable circumstances, speaks volumes. I believe my people have gained a new respect for humanity today." Ethan felt a swell of pride, realizing that his efforts were making an impact. As they left the conference room together, he noticed a few Alaran crew members nodding at him in acknowledgement, their skin glowing in shades of approval. But as they walked down the corridor, an unfamiliar Alaran figure watched them from the shadows, his bioluminescent patterns betraying an unsettling intensity. Ethan and Miri were unaware of the figure's presence, but the sense of foreboding lingered, hinting at trouble that lay ahead. In the days that followed the formal meeting, Ethan and Miri continued their discussions, each conversation unraveling new layers of curiosity and wonder. The more they shared, the more they realized that their worlds weren't as different as they had once thought. While their physical forms and customs varied, the core values of curiosity, learning, and connection ran deep within both species. Ethan found himself spending hours in Miri's lab, surrounded by Alaran technology that looked almost organic with its smooth, flowing shapes. The walls glowed faintly, casting gentle hues across the room, which shifted based on the mood and topics of their discussions. For Miri, Ethan was a walking encyclopedia of humanity's adaptability and resilience. For Ethan, Miri embodied the Alaran's relentless quest for knowledge, and the wonder they found in the unknown. One afternoon, as they reviewed data on human muscle adaptation in response to Earth's varying climates, Miri looked up, her skin glowing with a soft pink, an indication of genuine interest. "Commander Ethan, I must ask, what drives humans to explore? From what I understand, Earth offers an abundance of natural beauty and resources, yet you've chosen to venture into space, leaving your home behind. Ethan thought about her question, realizing he'd never fully considered it from an alien's perspective. "I suppose it's in our nature to seek out the unknown," he replied thoughtfully. "We're always looking to push boundaries, to see what's beyond the horizon. Even when it's dangerous or uncertain, the desire to learn is what propels us forward." Miri nodded, her bioluminescence shifting to a warm purple. "We Allurans are similar. While we are cautious by nature, our pursuit of knowledge has driven us to explore the far reaches of the galaxy. Yet we tend to do so with caution, avoiding interference with other species." Ethan smiled, admiring the Alluran respect for boundaries. "In some ways, that's the wiser approach. Humans, on the other hand, often learn through trial and error. Sometimes we push too far, but we also discover incredible things in the process." Their conversation drifted to lighter topics as they shared stories of their respective worlds. Miri described the breathtaking bioluminescent forests of Alara, where entire ecosystems glowed under the twilight skies. Ethan painted a picture of Earth's vast oceans, the way the sun glinted off the waves, and the raw power of a thunderstorm rumbling over the mountains. As they spoke, an unexpected bond formed between them, a quiet understanding, built on mutual respect and shared wonder. But not everyone viewed their friendship with the same admiration. In the shadows of the observation deck, an Alluran officer named Drac watched their interactions with an intense gaze. Drac had been vocal about his skepticism of the human alliance since the mission began. He saw humans as impulsive and reckless, a stark contrast to the disciplined, measured nature of the Allurans. As he watched Ethan and Miri share laughter and stories, his bioluminescence flared a sharp red, a sign of disapproval. Drac believed that the humans were a risk, and Miri's growing attachment to one of them only heightened his suspicions. He'd spent years dedicated to protecting Alluran interests and saw no place for outside influence in their carefully structured society. Drac's mind began to churn with plans, small ideas that flickered with potential. Perhaps with a subtle nudge, he could expose the humans as incompatible partners, unworthy of trust. All he needed was the right moment. Meanwhile, unaware of the animosity brewing around them, Ethan and Miri continued to grow closer. Their discussions grew more candid, touching on personal dreams and fears. Ethan shared stories of his family back on Earth, and Miri spoke of her own journey to becoming a scientist, the challenges she had faced in a society that valued conformity over curiosity. "I've always felt different," Miri admitted one day, her bioluminescence dimming to a soft blue. "Alluran society isn't as accepting of those who question the norms. For us, stability is valued above all, and questioning that stability can be seen as disruptive." Ethan nodded, feeling a pang of empathy. Humans have struggled with similar things. People who think differently often face pushback, but I think those are the people who drive progress. She looked at him, her skin glowing in a deep violet hue. "Maybe that's why I feel a connection with humans. You're a species that embraces the unknown, even when it's frightening." They shared a quiet smile, the weight of unspoken understanding settling between them. In that moment, the boundaries of species and cultures faded, leaving only two beings bound by a shared quest for knowledge and connection. But the tranquil moment was fleeting. As they stood on the cusp of a new understanding, a subtle yet disturbing message arrived on Miri's data screen. It was an alert from Captain Vorin, requesting Ethan's presence in the main command center immediately. Ethan glanced at Miri, a shadow of concern passing over his face. "I wonder what this is about." Miri's expression mirrored his unease. "I'm not sure, but Captain Vorin is not one to summon guests lightly. I'll accompany you." As they made their way to the command center, a sense of foreboding settled over Ethan. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was somehow related to their growing bond, a connection that, while meaningful to them, might be perceived as a threat by others. They had no idea that Drac's scheming had already set a plan in motion, a plan that would soon place Ethan's loyalty and the very foundation of their alliance to the ultimate test. As Ethan and Miri entered the command center, they were met with a tense atmosphere. Captain Vorin stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on a large holographic display that illuminated the dimly lit room. Several high-ranking Ellerin officers surrounded him, their bioluminescence subdued, a sign of seriousness that made Ethan's pulse quicken. Captain Vorin acknowledged Ethan with a curt nod, though his expression remained unreadable. "Commander Ethan," he began, his voice steady but laced with an edge of caution, "we have received troubling information." Ethan felt a chill creep up his spine. "Captain, I assure you, I have done my best to respect your customs and fulfill the goals of this mission. If there's been a misunderstanding, I'd be more than willing to clarify." Vorin's eyes narrowed slightly, his bioluminescent patterns shifting in subdued hues of red. "A misunderstanding may indeed be the case. However, one of our officers," he glanced at Drac, who stood at the edge of the room with a look of quiet satisfaction, "has raised concerns about your interactions with scientist Miri. He claims that you may be influencing her judgment, potentially swaying her from her duties." Ethan felt a surge of frustration, but kept his composure. "With all due respect, Captain, Miri and I have merely been exchanging knowledge. This mission, it is, after all, about building understanding between our species." Drac's gaze was cold as he spoke up, his voice sharp. "Understanding is one thing, Commander, but close, personal relationships can cloud judgment. Miri has become emotionally involved, it seems. This could compromise her objectivity." Mary's skin flared in pink, a mixture of embarrassment and indignation. "Officer Drac, I assure you, my work remains my highest priority. Commander Ethan and I have developed mutual respect, yes, but I would never allow personal feelings to interfere with my duties." Vorin raised a hand, signaling for silence. "The integrity of this mission is crucial. I cannot allow any compromise, however unintentional it may be." He looked at Ethan, his expression softening slightly. "But as you say, perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. To resolve this matter, I believe a private interview with both parties is warranted." Ethan glanced at Miri, who offered a slight nod of encouragement. "I'm willing to cooperate fully, Captain," he replied, keeping his tone respectful despite the unease gnawing at him. Vorin nodded, then gestured for Miri to remain behind as he led Ethan to a smaller private chamber. As the door slid shut, an uncomfortable silence settled over them. Ethan felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Any misstep here could unravel all the progress he and Miri had made. Captain Vorin sat across from him, his expression inscrutable. "Commander, I believe in the value of this alliance, but I need to understand your intentions fully. Tell me honestly, do you see this as merely a diplomatic mission, or do you seek something more?" Ethan considered his response carefully, knowing that every word counted. "Captain, I came here with one purpose, to represent humanity and build a bridge between our species. But in the course of this mission, I have developed a genuine respect for Miri and the Alaran people. My intention is only to learn, to connect, and to foster trust. Nothing more." Vorin studied him for a long moment, his skin flickering with faint patterns as he processed Ethan's words. Finally, he gave a slight nod. "Your sincerity is evident, Commander. I will take your words into account." Just as Vorin seemed to be softening, the door slid open abruptly. Drac entered, his bioluminescence flashing an intense red, his eyes sharp with accusation. "Captain, I have additional evidence," Drac declared, holding a small datapad in his hands. He approached Vorin and handed it over, casting a triumphant glance at Ethan. "This data shows unauthorized transmissions from the human's quarters, potentially sharing sensitive information with his own species. We cannot ignore such a breach." Ethan's heart pounded as he took in Drac's words, a cold shock racing through him. He hadn't sent any transmissions. He knew the protocol well and had abided by it strictly. The accusation was as baffling as it was damning. "Captain, I haven't sent any unauthorized transmissions. "This is a misunderstanding, or worse, an outright lie," he said, his voice filled with conviction. Vorin frowned, his expression troubled as he examined the data. "These readings are concerning, Commander. However, I have not known you to act recklessly. Perhaps there is another explanation." Drax's voice was a low, insistent growl. "Captain, we cannot afford to take risks with our security. This human may have seemed trustworthy, but it is clear he is not as innocent as he appears." Before Ethan could respond, Mary stepped into the room, her skin glowing with a fierce pink that Ethan recognized as determination. "Captain Vorin, I have analyzed the data in question. The alleged transmission signals match Drax's quarters, not Commander Ethan's." The revelation left the room in stunned silence. Ethan looked at Mary in gratitude, while Drax's expression twisted with a mixture of anger and panic. Vorin's gaze turned cold as he regarded Drax. "Is this true, Officer Drax? Did you manipulate evidence to undermine the mission?" Drax's bioluminescence pulsed erratically, betraying his distress. He struggled for words but finally lowered his head, his silence an admission of guilt. Captain Vorin's expression hardened. "Drax, you have compromised the integrity of this mission and put our alliance with the humans at risk. I hereby relieve you of your duties and order an immediate investigation into your actions." As Drax was escorted out, Ethan felt a wave of relief mingled with lingering tension. The attempted sabotage had come close to destroying the fragile trust he built with the Alarans, and he knew that this alliance was far from secure. Turning to Miri, he managed a small smile. "Thank you, Miri. I don't know what I would have done without your help." Mary's skin glowed with a soft, comforting purple. "We are allies, Commander, and I believe that our bond, however unconventional, is something worth fighting for." Captain Vorin gave a solemn nod. "Commander Ethan, Miri, this incident has reminded me of the importance of transparency and trust in this alliance. I will ensure that those values are upheld from this point forward. You both have my support." With the threat of sabotage behind them, Ethan and Miri left the command center together, their steps a bit lighter, yet both aware that their journey was far from over. The bonds they had forged had survived one test, but the question remained: what challenges lay ahead, and could they withstand them together? The fallout from Drax's deception lingered on the Alaran ship, casting a shadow over the mission. Although Drax had been dismissed, his actions left an undercurrent of suspicion among some Alaran officers who had yet to embrace the idea of human collaboration. Captain Vorin, however, seemed determined to let the alliance proceed, and Miri's loyalty to the mission remained unshaken. For Ethan, the incident was a stark reminder of the fragile trust he needed to nurture in this alien environment. Though the immediate danger had passed, he felt an uneasiness that refused to dissipate, as if something larger still loomed over the mission. A few days after Drax's dismissal, Captain Vorin summoned both Ethan and Miri to the High Council chambers, where the Alaran leaders would review the alliance's progress. The council members were a distinguished group, their bioluminescent skin displaying intricate patterns of wisdom and authority. Each one held the power to either solidify or shatter the alliance. As Ethan entered the chamber, he felt the weight of their collective gaze on him, scrutinizing every aspect of his appearance and demeanor. Miri stood beside him, her skin a calming shade of purple, offering silent reassurance. The head counselor, a figure draped in robes that shimmered with hues of blue and green, began the session with a deep, resonant voice. "Commander Ethan, Scientist Miri, you have both been instrumental in fostering this alliance. However, recent events have cast doubt upon our ability to maintain a stable partnership with humanity. We require clarity on several matters." Ethan felt his pulse quicken. He knew this was a test, a moment that could define the alliance's future. The head counselor's eyes fixed on him. "Commander, it is said that humans are unpredictable, driven by emotions that can lead to recklessness. How can we trust a species so prone to acting on impulse?" Ethan took a steadying breath, choosing his words with care. "Esteemed counselors, It's true that humans are guided by a mix of logic and emotion. But I believe that's one of our strengths. Our emotions drive us to protect, to connect, and to create. While it may sometimes lead to mistakes, it also leads to progress and innovation. Humanity's curiosity and resilience are what brought me here, in search of understanding. And I believe those qualities make us trustworthy allies. The council members exchanged silent glances, their bioluminescent skin flickering in patterns that Ethan could not interpret. Finally, the head counselor nodded. A balanced answer, Commander. Yet, balance alone does not ensure reliability. At that moment, another counselor, her skin glowing a muted blue, raised her hand. Scientist Miri, we have observed your growing rapport with Commander Ethan. Your bond, while unique, raises concerns about impartiality. Can you assure us that your relationship will not interfere with your scientific judgment? Miri stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. Honorable Counselor, I understand your concerns. My connection with Commander Ethan is built on mutual respect and shared curiosity. It has allowed us to explore our differences in a way that fosters true understanding. I assure you that my commitment to our mission remains my top priority. The counselor tilted her head thoughtfully, her skin pulsing with a soft green, a sign of tentative acceptance. Very well, Scientist Miri. Your dedication to this mission is noted. Just as it seemed the council was nearing a decision, the chamber doors opened, and an Alaran guard entered, his expression grim. He approached the head counselor and whispered something into his ear. The head counselor's bioluminescence flared a sharp red before he regained his composure and addressed the room. We have just received an emergency report, he announced. An unidentified vessel is approaching Alaran space, emitting signals that match no known species in our database. Its intentions are unknown. A tense silence fell over the chamber. Ethan could see the counselor's expression shift from curiosity to concern. This was no longer a diplomatic meeting. It was a potential threat. Captain Vorin immediately addressed the council. We must respond swiftly. I recommend a defense formation until we can assess the vessel's intentions. The head counselor turned to Ethan. Commander, you are familiar with species beyond our own. Your input may provide insight into this situation. Would your people approach in this manner? Ethan shook his head. Humanity has protocols for peaceful contact, and we're transparent with our intentions. But I can't speak for every species beyond your borders. If this vessel is approaching without communication, it may be either hostile or technologically impaired. In either case, a defensive posture would be wise. The council members exchanged glances, their bioluminescence flickering with rapid intensity. Finally, the head counselor spoke. Captain Vorin, prepare a defensive perimeter. Commander Ethan, Scientist Miri, you will join us in the observation room. This is a matter that concerns all parties in this alliance. As they followed the council to the observation room, Ethan felt a mix of dread and responsibility. He hadn't expected to face a crisis like this, and the alliance was already in a precarious state. One wrong move could jeopardize everything. The observation room provided a panoramic view of space, where the incoming vessel's silhouette was now visible against the stars. It was an imposing ship, sleek and dark, with no visible insignia or markings to indicate its origin. The Alaran defenses activated, creating a protective barrier around their ship, while a series of hails were transmitted toward the unknown vessel. Moments later, a response appeared on the screen. The message was brief but clear. We come in peace. The council members exchanged relieved glances, but Captain Vorin remained cautious. Their intentions may be peaceful, but we cannot be certain. We should proceed with careful diplomacy. The head counselor nodded. Agreed. Commander Ethan, would you be willing to represent us in this exchange? Your experience may provide the perspective we need. Ethan felt the gravity of the moment, but he knew he couldn't turn back now. I'll do my best, Counselor. Let's approach this with an open mind. As the council prepared to initiate contact, Mary offered him a reassuring smile. Her skin glowed with a calm, steady blue, the Alaran color of trust. In that moment, Ethan realized that his bond with Miri had become a foundation not just for their friendship, but for the alliance as a whole. With the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance, Ethan took his place at the communication console, ready to face whatever this new encounter would bring. Ethan took a deep breath as he stood at the communication console, the words, "We come in peace," displayed on the screen from the unidentified vessel. The entire Alaran Council and crew watched, their bioluminescent skin dimmed with anticipation. After a tense pause, Ethan spoke into the console, his tone respectful but firm. "This is Commander Ethan Monroe, representing both the Alaran and human alliance. State your intentions clearly." The screen flickered, and a figure appeared, a creature vaguely humanoid, but with features unlike any Ethan had ever seen. Its skin was metallic and reflective, and its eyes were large, almost expressionless. The creature's voice, when it spoke, was smooth and low, with an unearthly resonance. "We are the Ixanari," it began. "Explorers from a distant star system. We detected your energy signatures and sought to learn more of the beings who produce such signals. Our purpose is peaceful. We come only to observe and to exchange knowledge." Captain Vorin looked to Ethan, his expression cautious. "They say they come in peace, but that does not guarantee they mean no harm. Commander, what do you make of them?" Ethan chose his words carefully, aware that he was speaking not only for himself, but for all humanity. The Ixanari seemed curious, much like the Alarans. They seek knowledge, not unlike us. But I understand your caution, Captain. Trust is something we earn, not something we are given. The Ixanari representative inclined its head. "Your words carry wisdom, human. We, too, value caution. If you are open to it, we would like to establish a formal agreement of non-hostility, a promise of peace between our peoples." The council exchanged glances, their bioluminescence shifting in subtle, thoughtful patterns. After a moment, the head counselor turned to Captain Vorin. "Captain, would a non-hostility agreement align with our protocols?" Vorin nodded slowly. "It would, provided the Ixanari agree to our conditions, including a mutual exchange of cultural knowledge." Ethan turned back to the screen, meeting the Ixanari representative's steady gaze. "Ixanari, we are open to peace. In exchange, we request that you share information about your culture and history, as we will share ours. This transparency will ensure that both parties understand and respect each other's boundaries." The Ixanari representative's metallic face showed no expression, but it inclined its head in agreement. "We accept your terms, Commander Ethan. Let this be the beginning of a new era of understanding." With that, the communications were closed, and the Ixanari vessel hovered peacefully outside the Alaran ship. The council members visibly relaxed, their bioluminescent skin glowing softly with relief. Captain Vorin approached Ethan, his expression one of newfound respect. "Commander, your insight may have just saved us from a dangerous encounter. You have proven yourself an invaluable ally." Ethan nodded humbly. "Thank you, Captain. This alliance means as much to me as it does to you." The head counselor then addressed the room, his voice filled with authority and warmth. "Today marks a turning point not just for Alarans and humans, but for interstellar cooperation as a whole. May our bonds strengthen, and may we continue to learn from each other." As the meeting adjourned, Ethan and Miri found themselves alone in the quiet observation room, watching the Ixanari vessel as it drifted in the distance, a silent reminder of the possibilities that lay beyond. Miri looked at Ethan, her skin glowing a soft violet, the Alaran color of deep gratitude and friendship. "Ethan, you have changed how I see the universe. This journey, our alliance, it wouldn't have been the same without you." Ethan smiled, feeling the similar sense of connection. "The feeling is mutual, Miri. This alliance started as a mission, but it's become something more. It's become personal." For a moment, they stood in comfortable silence, gazing out into the vastness of space. Their friendship, a bridge between two worlds, had survived trials, misunderstandings, and even a near diplomatic collapse. Together, they had proven that trust and understanding could overcome even the most profound differences. Ethan looked at her, his voice soft. "You know, Miri, maybe this alliance is just the beginning. There's so much more out there, and I think humans and Allurans can face it together." Miri's skin shimmered with a warm, radiant glow. "Yes, Commander, I believe we can." As they left the observation room, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their journey was far from over, but he knew that whatever challenges awaited, they would face them as allies, as friends, and as symbols of a new era of unity in a vast and mysterious universe. The stars outside pulsed gently, a quiet reminder of the endless possibilities yet to be explored, possibilities that now seemed just within reach.